So once again, welcome each and every one of you to the session on IIFT form filling. The agenda of the session is that we'll be going through each and every question which is there on the IIFT form, and we'll try and deconstruct it in terms of what exactly needs to be written so that you come across as somebody who is ready to enter IIFT. Okay. So let's start with the first question. The first question is describe in short, what are your favorite areas of discussion in social networking websites? Okay. Now, so a lot of questions that I have received so far regarding this is what do I exactly write? And if I don't follow, if I don't contribute to the discussion, do I still write something? So I have written some quick points. One is, first of all, be global in your mindset. So if you're thinking of areas of discussion on social networking websites, don't really think only from India point of view or your region point of view. So think of some of the global things that are there and how you can contribute to that discussion. For example, if you are somebody who has a technology background, okay, now you may be contributing to some of the technology discussion forums that are out there, or you can be just discussing it with your friends. But it's important that you be somebody who has a global mindset and think from a specific point of view that this technology, what are the applications in the global scenario? So if I want to talk about technology, let's say that technology is something that I discuss on social networking websites, I'll try and think of something which is international and not only applicable to a certain territory. The second thing is personal and professional interest. So a lot of times we end up discussing things that we're not supposed to discuss. So here, whether one should mention personal interest or professional interest, that is a dilemma that a lot of you must be facing. So when it comes to personal, for the example is, for example, you might be liking, say, cricket. And you can say that cricket is one area where which I like to discuss on social networking website, which is a fine thing to say. So there's nothing wrong about mentioning a personal interest. But in case you're mentioning a personal interest, also add a professional interest along with that. So if you are working in a technology company, you're engineer, your professional interest can be something like coding or new technologies. So maybe you want to discuss HTML5 or something. So anything that has a personal component and a professional component, you can mention that. You can add two things. There's nothing wrong with it, even two or three. You can add things that you really like to discuss. Now, how to choose? So there might be a lot of things that you like. For example, personally, I like movies, music, a lot of things. But if I want to mention something, I'll prioritize that, okay, this is something that I want to talk about. So choose on the basis of how well you know the topic. If you don't know something well, don't mention it. Again, be specific. So just to give an example, now saying that I like to follow literature and I'm a Goodreads member and I like to contribute there. So saying just I like literature is very generic. So I'll be a little specific and say Indian non-fiction, for example, is what I like. So sports is generic. Indian national cricket team is specific. Okay. So be a little more specific in terms of your interest, because this always helps in the interview stage. If you go to the interview, if you specify, let's say, sports, somebody might ask you a question on fencing, or somebody might ask you, let's say you like cricket, then somebody might ask you something about the Zimbabwe cricket team, which you probably have no idea about. And that situation sometimes becomes difficult to control. So instead of that, make it specific so that you get a question which is specifically related to that particular area. Avoid controversial interest and affiliation. So if you have extremely passionate views on something and the topic itself is controversial in nature, it's a good idea to not mention it upfront. In case it comes up during the interview, then it's a different thing. But then don't mention it specifically as this is something that I like to discuss on social networking websites. Another thing is, don't be too esoteric. So something that a lot of people have no idea about. For example, I may be somebody who loves art, but I'll not say that I like to discuss the paintings of Jackson Pollock or something which a lot of people have absolutely no idea about. I'll not mention that. And the last thing is, so what if you don't participate? Because a lot of us spend time on social media, but we don't participate in fruitful discussions. We just either like, upvote, downvote, and do that stuff, or share maybe. So you have 1 month to participate, and it's okay if you just say that. By discussion, it need not be something which is a really long discussion on a particular topic. So even if you have a brief idea and you have discussed it with some of your friends offline also, it's a fine thing to say that this is something that I discuss on social networking websites. They will not really go through Facebook profile or Twitter profile of each and every one of you and try and figure out whether you actually participate in the discussion or not. But it's always a good idea, in case you have participated, then you can definitely say it. Even if you haven't, you can put it, but then you have 1 month to sort of develop more interest in the area and know more about the subject. Going to the next question, which is, on what professional achievement are you aspiring in short and long run? So here the problem is, a lot of people struggle in this question because first of all, it is not very clear to anybody whether that what the person will be doing in the 10-year time frame or a 15-year time frame, which is very difficult to imagine, first of all. So sometimes it works in both ways. If you specify what's short and long for you, or by keeping it open or generic. So earlier, last year, IIFT had a similar question, but they had only specified that short term and long term, meaning whatever, the 5-year plan and a 15-year plan. So short is 5, long is 15. So you had clear demarcation there, but here it's a little open-ended right now in terms of the time frame. So what is short, what is long? Now in this case, so either you specify that for me short term means 2 years, and for me long term means 10 years, or for me short term is 5, long term is 20 or 25. You can always keep it open or generic, that you don't specify the time frame that this is short term for me, but this is what I want to do in the next few years, and over a period of time, this is what I want to do. Now, the whole thing boils down to whether do you know what you want to do, and a clear idea is definitely better than a vague idea, which is definitely better than no idea. So you might be in the no idea stage or vague idea stage or clear idea stage at this point of time, but just figure out, start with the end in mind. That's what Stephen Covey said, that you start with the end in mind and you come back. So what do you really want to do over a period of time? So you sort of introspect and figure out what is it exactly that I want to do, and in the next 15 to 10, 20 years time frame, where will I be? A good way of finding where people with similar profiles and backgrounds will land up in the next 15, 20 years is to figure out by checking on either social media or sites like LinkedIn, or if you have some contact in the industry, you can talk to your managers who have spent some time in the industry and understand from them what the career path can be for somebody with similar profile and background. So that gives you an idea as to where you will be. And then you can figure out what milestones are required to reach there, what all skill sets are required to reach there. So you have a current set of skill set, and in the short run, you're going to do MBA from IIFT, and that is definitely going to give you desired skill set for short term at least. Because the learnings that you have will probably, some of it will be applicable in the industry in the immediate time frame. But over a period of time, because of technology and the business landscape changing, there will be a point of time where what you have learned during 2 years of MBA will not remain relevant. So you will continue to learn over a period of time, and you will start applying what you learn immediately. So you understand how the career graph and career evolution is going to be by talking to a lot of people, and it may not be possible in the short term. So unless you are in touch with somebody in the next 2-3 days, you're not going to get this feedback. But definitely do check out LinkedIn, check out the website of the institute, figure out what the alumni are doing currently, and that will give you an idea as to what you can write here. something that you should definitely avoid is gas, which is in the MBA parlance, we call it gas, or the jargons that you don't understand. So don't say that I want to climb the corporate ladder, because it doesn't make any sense actually, if you think of it. So don't use unnecessary jargons, and don't make life complicated for yourself. Okay. Now, what we had done last year was we had put an article on the 5 and 15-year plan on our website. So I've given a link here. I'll when I upload the video on YouTube, I'll also put the link in the description. So if you go to our website on Learning Roots, in the GDPI category, you will have all the IIFT, the last year's form, the all the answers and tips to write those answers. So just go through it, go through the 5 and 15-year plan, and that will give you some ideas to what you can write. Now, going to the next question. So, how do you consider yourself suitable for a career in management? Now, so this is in other words, this is actually why should we select you, or why do you want to do MBA? A question on similar lines. So, first of all, understand that you have some foundation. So, you're not coming to the institute without anything. You don't walk in with a clean slate. You have done something in your life, whether it is at a personal, professional level, and that foundation is something that you bring to the campus. So one is build on the foundation, that speak of things that you have done so far, that this is what I have done, these are the activities that I have participated in, or these are the committees that I've been a member of, or these are the tasks that I did at my work or projects that I worked upon. So talk about those things. So give real examples and bring out 2 to 3 qualities. I was part of a team that analyzed large data sets, and that has significantly improved my analytical skills. I was part of an international team where we had people from different ethnicities working, and that has really helped me have tremendous communication skills. So something that you bring to the table is what you need to mention. Now, there are 3 things that you need to focus on, which is attitude, skills, and knowledge. So you speak about the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, and the attitude that you bring to the table. And then you add how management education is going to help you achieve whatever objective that you have for yourself. So this is where you are right now. And these are the reasons why you think a career in management will add to your current skill set. And then because of this, I'm going to achieve my objective. The next question is, give an example of a creative piece of work or innovation you have worked on, or any startup you have been involved with. Now, for this question, see, this is probably one of the easier questions that are there in the form, because most of you must have worked on something or the other, which is either creative or innovative. There's always a possibility that you don't think of it as creative, but from a company point of view or client or project point of view, that thing is still significantly innovative. So whether should you talk only about professional life in the entire form? Not really. So if you have already given a lot of professional examples, you can talk about a personal example that you have. So creativity can be personal. Absolutely no problem with that. So when you're talking about startups, just be a little careful as to whether you are a part of the startup, meaning you are the part of the founding team, or you are somebody who is just working on the startup is already there and you're working on the startup. Also, a lot of people have this confusion that what exactly do you mean by a startup? So Government of India has a clear-cut definition of what a startup means. So just go through that definition once and then only talk about the company or the startup that you work with. The other thing is, if it was a group task, you need to talk about what exactly was your role, because what happens is sometimes people work on innovative projects, but they are not a significant part of that project. So if it is a 1,000-member team working on something and you are probably just doing one piece of work there, it doesn't really make sense. So you need to specify what exactly was your role and what innovative thing you did. So there might be cases where you have multiple examples. So just prioritize one example where it will it will clearly show that this is what you did and this is what was innovative. The other thing is, which is the case with all our memories, that they are not in linear order. They are not stored in linear order in our mind. So because of this, you need to make sure that the interviewer or somebody who is reading your form understands what exactly is going on. Because a lot of times, and since I review so many forms, I end up getting examples where sometimes I have to read it twice to understand what exactly is going on, because there's so much of jargon that is there in the answer. So make sure that you have a linear, simplified narration so that people understand very easily what exactly are you talking about. The last thing is significance of innovation and the outcome. Both need to come out. So don't just say that this is what the innovative thing that I did. Don't stop there. Tell the interviewer what the outcome was. So if it is a project that you worked upon, say what was the outcome. For example, the project received appreciation from the senior management team, or the project was showcased at an international conference, or it has resulted in my client saving $1 million, for example. So these are the things that you need to talk about. The innovation, what exactly it was, what was your role, what you did, the significance of the innovation, and the final outcome. So whether you received any appreciation or recognition for the contribution that you gave. Coming to the next question. So describe how you organize yourself for a typical day. Now, so some of you must be thinking why this question is there, because I mean, it's not really technically, it doesn't fit in any of the previous question or the questions that are to follow. So why is it there? So this question is because of a concept called self-management. So I mean, Peter Drucker wrote a whole book on it called Managing Oneself. So in case you get time, it might be a good idea to read that book before your MBA. Very nice short book, something that you can definitely read. So understand why this question is there. So they need to see how you organize yourself on a particular day. Now, they are not interested in the nitty-gritties of what exactly you do. So I wake up at 7 a.m., then I do whatever, and I get ready by 8 o'clock. I leave for office, I take a bus, I reach office. So those things are not really required. What is essential is you talk about things that you think are important. For example, if you're somebody who gets up every day at whatever 7 a.m. and then exercises, because exercise is something that you think is important for you to be healthy, fit, and have a productive day, do definitely mention exercising as something that you do on a typical day. You may not be doing it, but then even if you do it intermittently, you can definitely mention it. Here, the breakup of your entire answer, the Pareto principle of 80-20 will apply here as well. So 80% of your answer has to be work and academics. Okay. So either if you're a student who is studying right now, it's a good idea to focus on your academics. So how do you plan for your normal college day? You must be having some assignments, some project work, lectures. How do you do those things? How do you take care of your routine tasks? So those things you can focus on. If you're working, then of course you can talk about meetings. So I go to office. I generally start my day with a meeting with my team. We figure out the things that we have to do during the day. Then somewhere post lunch, we have another meeting where we keep a track of what we have done so far and what needs to be done in the remaining half of the day. And I close my day by responding to all the emails that I have and finishing all the pending tasks and everything. So something on similar lines can be explained here. The personal part of it has to come because it's impossible for anybody to just talk about work or academics. So when I say personal, I'm saying something like hobbies and interests, something that you do on a daily basis when you're not working. So I can, if you ask me, I'll always say that I like to read. I like to close my day by reading for 45 minutes. So if it is something like this, you have some interest that you have, that you pursue or hobby, you can mention that. Family, friends, significant people can be featured in the answer, but don't push it. Don't make it more than one line. So you can always say that after I come from office, I go for a game of badminton with my friend in my apartment, something like that. So essentially, it has to be more of your work academics and then followed by some of the personal things that you do. The other thing is this question gives you an opportunity to show off your knowledge of productivity tools and techniques. So there are a lot of things that are there in the market right now. So if you just think of productivity, there's this nice book by David Allen called Getting Things Done that you can read. And I'll come to that because in one of the questions I've given some of one of the frameworks that he has given. And of course, there are a lot of techniques. So you have a lot of tools. For example, the note-taking tools. You have Evernote, you have Wunderlist, you have Any.do, you have a lot of things. So you can, of course, use the hardbound planner that you get. Talk about these things, that these are the things that you do on a daily basis to make sure that you are more productive and getting more from your workday. Describe a situation when you had too many things to do and had to prioritize. So, first of all, this is something that we do almost all the time, but it's just that we can't write each and everything that we do. So, you have to choose something which is significant or critical. By significant, I mean something that that clearly stands out from whatever things that you have done so far, because it may be related to your work, it may be related to your academics, because if you're a student, you're working on a lot of projects at the same time, you have some submission, you have the placement going on, you have to prepare for MBA entrance exam, so you can probably talk about that. If you're a working professional, then of course, if you're part of some team, you can always say that, or working on multiple projects, then how do you prioritize one project over the other? So one thing that you need to mention is, so I've given 4 factors, which, as I said, are given by David Allen. The context, time, energy, and priority. Now, time and energy probably something that you can skip for this answer because it's not really required that you explicitly mention it somewhere. But context has to be there, that this was the scenario, that there were X, Y, Z things to be done, and I chose X thing over Y or Z because of the context or because of the priority. Time and energy is something that you can skip for now. And once you have that answer in place, just try and read out your answer and just see if it sounds convincing to you. The last thing is, as I have mentioned in the previous questions, the outcome has to be mentioned somewhere, that you made a decision to do X over Y, and this was the outcome. And that at that point of time, that was the right thing to do. So that is something that you have to show towards the end of your answer. Coming to the next question. So this is one of the questions where people struggle because they don't know what exactly needs to be written, or people don't think of events as central significant events in their lives. So describe an incident that has changed your perspective / outlook towards life. Before we begin, first of all, I have written an answer to this question on our website. So if you go to the website, you will find how to write this answer there. I've given some key points that you need to keep in mind. So something from formative years always works. By formative years, meaning when you are young. So when you're in school, in 4th grade or 5th grade, something that happened and it completely changed the way you looked at things. It can be something very simple. For example, you were reading a book and you came across something, and that has been with you for your life since then. So tell a good story. That is the essence, that it has to sound, and when you're reading, it has to be interesting to read, first of all. The change in perspective has to be mentioned, that what was your, say, prejudice or perspective or assumptions before the change happened, and what exactly was the change. That needs to appear somewhere in your answer. Now, avoid serious, sad, awkward moments. So for a lot of people, they think that they need to specify something which is so moving that people will appreciate what they've written. But that is not the case. So you need not create a sad or a serious situation if it was not there. Of course, I completely agree that for a lot of people, these are the moments that actually change the perspective. But while writing, Don't make it appear sad, is what I'm trying to say. So just think of everything that has happened in your life. You'll probably find something. And if you don't find something, you should definitely consult your parents. Just ask them, what do you think was a significant event in my life? You will find your answer. Okay. So for a lot of these questions, if you ask your friends, people who know you well, and your parents, you will definitely get answers. Guys, I'm just taking a 1 minute quick break. I'll be back. Yeah. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat window. We'll come to those questions at a later point of time. Now, describe any national global event that has happened in the last 6 months that you think is going to have long-term impact on the world of business. So, first of all, pick something you know about or something that you'll find a lot of reading material about. Now, uh, so see, when you write something and you go for the interview, that is the only form that they have. So if you have written something now, and between now and your interview, you're going to have a month. So you can definitely prepare on it. So do your research, quick research at this point of time as to what you want to write. And over the next 1 month, you can read about it and then discuss that in the interview. Now, considering the number of calls that they have given and number of forms that they are going to get, uh, you won't be able to differentiate a lot on the example, because whatever you write, there will be 10 others who will write the same example. So you can't differentiate on the example itself. You'll have to differentiate on the explanation of it. That how do you uh, convince them that this is something that which is your understanding, that this is how it is going to impact the world of business. So that is something that you will have to differentiate on the explanation part. Now, this is also your opportunity to show your understanding of the event. So make sure that you read enough so that you have a structured answer, and uh, do definitely expand on some of the critical aspects of it. Definitely, you will have a lot of events. So shortlist if you have multiple events, and then figure out that this is the one that I want to speak about. Stick with business. So don't get into some of the other happenings that have happened. So, for example, uh, I don't think, I mean, one can always talk about, so let's say, for example, the Olympics that happened in Rio. Now, if you actually Google, you will find that the impact that it has had on the economy of Brazil. But it doesn't, I mean, that can't be an example that you can mention here as long-term impact on the world of business. Uh, Now, for another example which is very common and a lot of people are going to write, is the demonetization thing. So I would recommend, don't write demonetization as the answer, because you will not be able to differentiate. So if 100 people end up writing the same thing, it doesn't make sense for you to do that. So instead, right, you can Google and you can see what all things have happened in the last 6 months and how they are going to impact the world of business is what you can expand upon. But avoid common examples for sure. Don't write demonetization, especially since you're watching this video and I'm telling you not to write it. Don't write it. Coming to the next question, which is describing instances where you have been able to demonstrate leadership and team building skills. So here again, understand that leadership as a concept uh, also covers personal leadership. So it is fine if you mention some personal leadership example, But professional leadership example will always have more weight compared to a personal leadership example, unless the personal leadership example stands out like anything. uh, Getting very technical about it. So if you read answers and start, when I give feedback, I generally see some of these things, that how many I statements are there and how many we statements are there. So whenever you're talking about the leadership part, uh, you should use I statements. And whenever you're talking about the team building part and the outcome part, you say more of we, because you're then talking about the team and you're part of the team. So these are some of the finer technical aspects of it. Uh, as I mentioned in the previous answers, outcome and achievements need to come. So let's say, for example, that you decided to. So I've given, if you are somebody who is studying in college, or somebody who wants to give instance from a school, college, or professional level. So, for example, taking up a new project and managing it with the team, assuming a new role in addition to your work for organizational benefits, competition or team event with distributed deliverables or leading a contingent. So these are some of the leadership instances that you can give. The other thing is, for example, a crucial family role or responsibility. So there was a crisis, and because of which you had to assume a certain role, which is definitely a significant leadership example. Then, of course, something like a social initiative and awareness, some cause that you feel passionate about, and you've demonstrated leadership there. So you can give some of these examples. Uh, this is something that we have covered on the website. So just definitely go through the article that I've written. Describe a difficult situation when you encountered a conflict with a senior team member or colleague. So I'm sure a lot of you will have this answer. There are people who don't like their bosses, so definitely you're going to have a conflict some or the other time. But don't put anybody in negative light. So don't pass on the blame to somebody that this person did this and this person did that. Not the not a good thing to do. So there is this classic thing called Pixar pitch. So if you watch any Pixar movie, you will have the same story, essentially the same basis on which the story is built. So once upon a time, there was something. Every day, something used to happen. One day, something else happened because of that, until finally there was a resolution. So I have mentioned the same basis in one of the answers on the website. So do check out that answer as well. So you start with some beginning, that because the reader doesn't know the context. So set the context that this was the normal process or whatever, and this is how the conflict began. So then you expand the conflict, that this is what the conflict was. And the important thing is, how did you resolve it? So the you part of it is very important, because a lot of conflicts sometimes get resolved by time itself, that you sit on it and things will take care of itself. But here you need not speak about those things. You have to talk about something that you took the initiative to resolve. So I'll just give you an example. So let's say you're working on a project, and in the project, your manager said that this particular thing needs to be done this way because this is how it has always been done. Excuse me. And you are new to the team, but you had this particular suggestion in mind that this is how it should be done. So you told your boss, but then he said, no, this is not how it's done. Uh, then what you did was you decided to prepare a report that if we do this, this is how it will work out, and these are the benefits that the company will have because of this. Then finally you convince your manager that this is what we should definitely do. That's what you guys did, and the outcome was the way you had planned. Okay, so don't put anybody in a negative light. Don't do that ever. Always focus on the positive parts. Use positive words in the answer, that this was the conflict and this was the resolution, and ultimately it turned out to be great for everybody. That brings us to the last question, which is any other information that you have not pointed out before and that you consider may be relevant. Attach a separate sheet if necessary. So unless you think that it is necessary, don't attach extra sheet. Because frankly, nobody has so much time to go through each and every answer that is there. So separate sheet proves that you can't really manage with that space that is given to you, which they have given, assuming that that is enough. So I would personally not attach a separate sheet. Having said that, do not leave this question blank. So I've got this question a lot. I don't have anything extra that I can mention here. So what should I do? Do not leave this blank. Think of anything that doesn't fall under previous questions. And there might be cases where you don't have proof for it. For example, you did some volunteering work with an NGO and you don't have a proof for it, but you have a month to get that proof. So if you don't have a proof, can you get a proof? So first of all, think, is it possible for you to get a proof? You might have worked with somebody who has left that organization and has gone somewhere else, but can that person write a mail and or give you a letter that this is what you did, works well? So just to give a personal example, so when I was studying at JBIMS, so every college has a the pre-placement CV screening activity, which means that whatever you write on your CV, somebody from the senior placement team will review each and everything that you have written, and you need to have proof for it. So I had written that I was awarded the best student in the 10th grade, and of which actually I was, but I didn't have a proof because my school used to give books as the prize. So what I did was, this is so year 2009, which is 6 months after I had completed my school. I went back to my school. I told my headmaster that this is what had happened, and I need a proof. So they gave me a letter on the school letterhead that this is what had happened 6 years back, and basically this person is not giving nonsense. So it will be possible to get a proof for a lot of things. So you can do that. Another thing that people ask is, can I mention qualities? So I have a very positive frame of mind. Just to give an example, not a great thing to put on the paper, because most of us or all of us are supposed to have a positive frame of mind. But let's say, for example, you want to talk about something specific. For example, I have great negotiation skills that I have developed during my tenure at XYZ organization. Sure, you can mention it, but you need to have some evidence for it. And evidence, for example, if let's say you're giving example of negotiation skills, you should have worked on negotiating something which resulted in something tangible. Otherwise, you can't mention qualities. So because these words are just words, don't mean anything. Okay, so you can't say I'm hardworking without uh, a significant evidence suggesting that. You will always have something to share. So don't restrain yourself. Don't think as to what will happen if I put this, what will happen if I put that. Even if it is something that you think is not significant, go ahead and mention it. It's always better to write something than leaving the whole thing blank. Okay. Now, that brings us to the question, if there's nothing that you can think of, so there might be a possibility that you have covered everything, because in the previous section of the form, you have the achievements, the projects that you have worked on, the research paper, the languages that you know. So what if there's nothing? So you know what to do. I'm not saying you make things up. I'm saying you write something and then you have 1 month uh, to actually do that thing and then talk about it. Okay. For example, if you let's say want to participate in some CSR activity that your company has and you haven't done it, but you know that there is a CSR activity that your company does on a recurring basis, and this is how people participate in that event. You can definitely go ahead and say that CSR is something that I feel passionate about, and these are the activities that my company does, and I participate in those events. But the only thing is, you have to do it in the next 1 month. Don't go to the interview. You can't bluff, and whatever advice that you get from people saying that you have to sell yourself and you have to bluff and do this and that, just ignore that advice. If you have done it, you'll be able to talk about it. If you haven't done it, you'll not be able to talk about it. It's as simple as that. So you have a month to figure out what can be done. So I don't know how many of you have watched the film The Martian, where Jessica Chastain's character. So towards the end, if you watch the movie, there is a scene where they have to reach they have to reach Mark. So if you look at the scene, the intercept velocity is too big for them to reach him. So they say that, okay, this is what we'll do, and the time that we have is 39 minutes. So we have 39 minutes to figure out how to slow down. So this is what I want you to do, that you have 1 month to figure out how to convince them. So write something and do it in the next 1 month. You'll definitely be able to justify it in the interview stage. I'm just giving some of the questions that help you write better. So if you think of any event, any activity that you have done, any task that you worked upon, any event that happened, these are the questions, the WH questions that you need to ask yourself and write down, which will give you more points to talk about. So what made you participate? Let's say you decided to participate in some robot building competition. So what made you participate? So there will be some motivation, right? That you have always been passionate about robots or you like technology. What made it special? So this was the first time that your college was organizing something at such a level. So that made it special. What were you trying to achieve? So let's say you're trying to build a robot which can solve a Rubik's cube, maybe, for example. How many people were involved? So you were a team of 4 people. And here, a lot of people make mistakes. So a lot of people say there were about 4 people. You can't have about 4 people. Either there were 4 people or 5 people or 10 people. You can't have about 4 or about 50 people. So be specific that the team had 4 people. What roles were they performing? So one friend was doing the design, one was doing the coding part, one was doing whatever. And what were you doing? So how did you do it? So we had a 1 month time frame. I was responsible for this thing. This is how we started, and this is what we did. Was there a complication? Yes, the robot was not able to solve the Rubik's cube. Then what did you do? So what did you think, and how did you feel after you achieved the objective? So we made the robot finally. The robot was able to solve Rubik's cube. The the competition saw participation from 100 teams, and we finished as the second team. So these questions will give you more. It will bring out memories that you have. Otherwise, it's very difficult to write down your answer, and it will definitely give you some structure because it will help you put all your memories in a linear order. So I'll be taking questions now, but before that, just a few general tips that I have. A lot of I have seen some of the forms where the answers are not very serious. So don't take it lightly, because when you go for the interview, it will be very difficult to justify something that you have written without complete thought process. So write this form as if this is the only assessment criterion that you are going, assume that there's not going to be any GDPA, and this is something that you have to submit and it is going to decide your future. So that will bring some seriousness and maybe will push you to write it in a better way. Avoid negative words. So nowhere should you mention any negative words, connotation, speaking negative about people. Don't write short answers, because what happens is you have space. So if they have given 8 lines, fill those 8 lines. Don't use 2 lines and leave the remaining 6 lines blank, because it doesn't make sense. For some of the answers, you can put bullet points. So for example, the short-term, long-term answer. You can put short-term, I want to do 1, 2, 3. Long-term, I want to do 1, 2, 3. Fair thing to say. Use the space well. Okay. So as I said, don't leave questions blank. For any of the questions, don't leave it blank. And the last thing is, don't fake, don't just make things up out of nowhere that you can't defend. Even for the last one, when I said that you can write something that you haven't done, but I spoke that with a condition that you have to do it in the next one. So these are the simple general tips that you need to keep in mind. Now, coming to the content that you want for GDPI, so I have last year I had covered each and every question of the form in the form of a detailed article. So just go through that. You'll find it on the Learning Roots website if you go to the GDPI category. We have a Facebook group, so all of you are already part of it, which is the Cracking Cat group on Facebook. And we're planning to start a GDPI course, so just stay tuned for that update as well. I'll take questions now. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat window. Okay, I'll just take questions one by one. So Ishant is asking about the question on global event that could have global effect on economy. What are the questions options apart from Brexit? Okay, so speaking of India, you have a lot of options. For example, the GST is something that you can talk about. Global event. So, for example, you can maybe talk about the presidential election again becomes a little common. So maybe you want to avoid presidential election as an important event. So this time, I think demonetization, US elections, Brexit, GST, all these things are going to be at the top of the chart when it comes to people giving examples regarding. But if you want to put something lesser known, then you will have to Google a little and figure out something which is highly technical and will impact. So maybe you think that something from, let's say you want to talk about the e-commerce thing. So, uh, I think last month there was something that the Indian startup should be given protection by the government. So if you think that that is going to impact the economy, Indian economy, why not go ahead and mention it? So it says global effects on economy, but then you can always talk about the Indian economy and then relate it to global economy. So that is not a problem. I would still suggest just Google and depending on your interest, because you will also have some interest and inclination towards some of the events. You finalize which is the event that you want to talk about. Sachin is saying, I don't follow any specific topic of discussion on social networking sites. What should be my approach? So Sachin, as I've mentioned in my, when we were discussing the question, you need to mention something. So for example, let's say Quora is a brilliant platform. So you can always say that depending on your background, for example, if you're a commerce student or you have some finance background, yeah, you can always say that I like to read some of the current economics or finance topics on Quora, and I also write. I also contribute to the discussion in the form of answers. So that is something that you can talk about. And again, you have another 1 month. So if you don't have Quora account, you can create Quora account and write in the next 1 month. Okay. Ravik is asking, is it all right to mention your specialization in the short and long-term goals? How do I avoid jargons in my long-term goals without mentioning what field I'm really interested in? Okay, so taking your first question, is it all right to mention your specialization in the short and long-term goals? Yes, you can. If you mention it, it is always better because it steers the interview in that particular direction. So if you're interested in marketing, fair to say marketing. But just be prepared for a little more probing and questions related to marketing. Uh, how do I avoid jargons in my long-term goals? So it will not be completely possible to avoid it because there will be, so you will have to say that leadership, I want to be in a leadership position. So leadership position is not technically jargon because that's the assumption that over 10, 15 years, you end up in some or the other leadership role. Uh, by jargon, I meant things like corporate ladder, which are uh, which is something that people don't appreciate. So it's fine to say that over the next 15 to 20 years time frame, I would want to be in a position where I manage the growth of the organization uh, and take occup, assume significant leadership position. So those are the things that you can say, but then it's still one line. When you say long-term goals, you need to put in more lines. So 3 to 4 lines on how exactly, what exactly do you mean by that? So if you want to talk about, let's say, over a 15, 20-year time frame, you want to have your own company, then you need to say that over the next 15 years, I want to work on my startup ideas in parallel, and then expect questions on why you don't want to do startup right now and why do you want to do MBA and work in the industry. Another question is, if due to lack of my extracurricular activities at school, college, I don't really have a foundation to tell about my leadership skills, then how do I approach the suitability for MBA question? So, see, extracurricular is not the only thing that you can talk about, because there will be a lot of curricular things. For example, a group assignment is a curricular activity, or a final year project where I don't know whether you're supposed to work in teams or not. But if you are supposed to work in a team, it counts as a place where you can show leadership and team building skills. So I would suggest go through some of the curricular things that you have done. And if you have work experience, then something that you have done in your work, and then you will figure something out. Because if after the session, maybe if you can drop me a mail and just tell me what exactly you have done, maybe I can help you a little there. Ishant is asking, an instance that changed your perspective. Can I write about moving to a different city for my college, far away from home, that helped me discover myself? Oh, brilliant. So see, these are the examples that differentiate people. So because for some of these questions, people will have repetitive answers. Leadership skills, a lot of people will have some college event, some office work, something. But instance that change your perspective, this is going to have a lot of different examples, and this is where you will shine actually. So moving to a different city for my college, far away from home, brilliant example. Make sure that you write enough points about it. So what exactly it taught you, what perspectives did it change? So maybe you had some assumptions about people from a particular city. Then you move to that city, and then you realize that okay, that is not the case actually. And the people here are sweet. So, or you figured out how to manage yourself because your father was not taking care of you. So you had to figure out how to take care of yourself. Okay, so a good example, but write it well. Okay, somebody has asked, I have a gap of 1 year in my work experience, and I'm sure it will be asked during interview. I quit XYZ company and a year later joined a startup. From software development to inside sales, questions will be asked. How do I go about it? Okay, so see, basically whatever you have done, you are going to get questions related to that. How you justify in the interview it's something that you need to think of. I would suggest you write down answers, because don't think of it right now because you have a month to prepare. But slowly start writing answers to different interview questions. So there are commonly asked interview questions, and you look at your CV, you will understand the kind of questions that you will get. So why did you decide to leave the company? So an answer can be software development, you did that, but then you realize that that is something that you don't want to do over a period of time, and you were not enjoying what you're doing. But some aspect of it which you enjoyed was your interaction with the sales team. And then you thought, hey, why not try sales? So then you joined a startup which gave you critical understanding of how sales works in a real life scenario. So see, gaps, a lot of people will have gaps. So don't worry that it's not really a negative thing to have, as long as you can justify what you did during that gap and how it has given you some skills, or how that experience has helped you move further in your career. These are the things that you need to focus on. So focus on the positives rather than thinking of gap as a negative thing. Okay, another question is, being a BTech fresher, how do I give a justification about choosing management when I have no work ex? Okay, so you must have done something. I don't know what all topics or what all subjects you have in your course, but then there might be something which is borderline related to management. If you can just go through your courseware, you'll find something. Um, Probably that is one thing that you can talk about, that is something that gave you a direction in terms of that management can be a career for you. The other thing is, in case you had any internship uh, in terms of some sales internship or some marketing or coding, let's say coding, you did coding for a finance company. Okay. So these are the areas that you can talk about, that during that internship, I got to work with some of the top guys in the company, and it changed my perspective, and I realized that management is something that I want to do. Another thing is the group activities or college events that you have, where you were managing the team, or you took an initiative and made sure that it worked. So you started, let's say, a club in your college. Brilliant example to give that. I was particularly interested in this thing. I figured out that there are a lot of people who want to do that. The college didn't have anything specifically for it. I decided that I'll start a club in my college. So I'm sure you will find something, Ishant, because all of us do a lot of things. It's just that we don't think that they're significant. So find something and expand on it. I'm sure it will work out in your favor. Okay, are there any questions? We are towards the end of the sessions. In case you want to ask anything, you can ask, or you can always ping us on the Facebook group and we'll respond. Okay, another question that we have got, how to avoid a cliched answer about why MBA after engineering? I don't really want to say entrepreneurship. Okay. Uh, so see, there might be things that have happened that sort of inspire you to do something. For example, if there is somebody, you have a brother or a sister who has done engineering and then did MBA. So you have an example with you that you can talk about, that my brother or my sister inspired me to do this, because then you see how they have progressed in their career, and discussing with them has given you that idea. Uh, if you have already worked in the industry, then of course it becomes very easy to say, because you can always say that the career goals that you had at a point of time were different. So you did engineering, but then after you started working, you realize that in addition to what you have done and what you already know, you need to have different perspectives to be, so to say, a good manager, or to be someone who is well informed. So you expand on that, okay, this is why I need to do MBA. And see, backgrounds are not a problem, because people from various backgrounds get into MBA. Especially if you have some different background altogether, then it definitely adds value. But after engineering, most of the people are going to give pretty much the same answer, and your answer will not be very different from what people are saying. But if you have some personal example to give, maybe some brother, sister, or some of your close friends might have actually done their MBA, and you can talk about these things. Or you may be having a friend at IIFT, right? And you spoke with that friend, and some of these things really work. So if you say that I have a friend who is studying at IIFT, and I spoke with him, and sort of that made me realize that I want to do MBA. So think of what can be done. Write maybe 3-4 different versions, and then you can show it to maybe your friends or to a faculty, or send it to us, and I can tell you that which of them sounds more interesting. Another question that I've got is, I do not have any article/research paper. Should I mention that I have nothing? Okay. Uh, so I'll just go to the question. I think it says that whether it is published in the at a national level or something. But see, any project that you worked on which was presented at some sort of symposium, or some of those IEEE events that keep happening, or uh, something, it was part of some assignment which was given to you. and you presented it to your uh, college professor, you can write something. So I personally don't think that question is a deal breaker question for anybody. They just want to know if you have written something. So whether you have some research bent of mind. Uh, Nick, let's do one thing. You ping me on Facebook. I'll take your question there. I'll talk to you separately after the session. Okay. So if there are no questions, then we'll close. I'll upload this recording on YouTube. I hope you guys got some quick tips on what can be written and what can be avoided in the form. If you have any queries, feel free to get in touch with us. And I wish all of you convert your IFT and uh, do just well in your life. Okay. So good luck. All the best. I'll take your leave.